The show begins with main character Ryota Murakami narrating a traumatic incident he went through in his childhood, the death of his friend Kuro Neko. She was interested in the existence of the supernatural and aliens, not K-pop or babes. One day, the girl even claimed to Ryota that she met an alien and knows where it's hiding on Earth. Ryota believed her claim and decided to accompany her over to that alien's location. While crossing a dam and walking over to the room the alien is hiding in, heavy winds blew, causing Ryota to lose his footing. The girl gave her hand to him, and so they both fall to imminent death. Obviously, our boy survives, or we wouldn't be here recapping his adventures. When Ryo gets discharged from the hospital, the staff breaks the news to him that his girlfriend had died instantly from the fall. And as soon as Ryota found out, he broke down and cried. Fast forward, and he's now a teenager that promised to find alien life no matter how long it took him for the sake of keeping a promise to his dead friend. Talk about issues. In class, the teacher introduces a new student joining. Ryota's eyes couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The dude was so dumbfounded he felt happy, confused, anxious, and terrified all at once. You see, the new transfer student is the spitting image of Kuro, and her name is similar as well. As soon as he saw her, Ryo rushed towards her, asking and wondering where she had been all those years, claiming that there's no way she could have forgotten who he is. However, she replies to him, "Do I even know you?" And just like that, headshot, dead. Now, any sensible dude would have said, "Understandable, have a nice day." Yet our man was too traumatized from the past, so instead he asked her to show him her armpit. Now, to some, this might sound creepy as well as messed up. And that's exactly what it is on so many levels. But Ryo has a reason behind that claim. His deceased friend Kuro had a 3-dotted birthmark in the shape of a triangle under her armpit. That said, he gets slapped senselessly for such a request. During the swimming class, the pump safety cover gets removed, sucking one of the girl's legs and trapping her underwater. Kuro stood there watching silently and suddenly uttered what seemed like a prophecy. 2 students are going to die today. However, the pool floor caved in and caused the pump to stop working, freeing the girl's leg. Ryota then takes the bus to the observatory to use the telescope and stargaze as a means of remembering his promise to his friend. While sitting there alone, Kuro comes in and claims that if he doesn't take the 8 p.m. bus, he will surely die today. Ryo is then taken aback by her claim and somewhat flustered. However, what caused him the most confusion is that she can't multiply for shit. The girl doesn't even know what 2 times 2 is. Kuro then enters tsundere mode and claims that being an airhead isn't an issue for her as long as she has superior strength and her own means to enter the school. Ryota then challenges her to an arm wrestle, and she mops the floor with him. Before leaving, she warns him again that he might die and receives some calls on her transceiver talking to someone lying on a bed. As Neko left the observatory, we are shown a flashback from her childhood of a car burning and someone she's acquainted with, and smashed under the giant tires called Akane. Akane then hands over some kind of package to Neko and tells her that even if she forgets everything about herself, she should never forget the package and that she will be the one to save them all. Something she doesn't know the meaning of till today. Yet she is prepared to do whatever it takes as long as it will save someone's life. Back to the present time, Ryota decided to walk back home despite her warnings to see if she was talking for real or if she belonged to the cuckoo house. On the highway, he began to eliminate all possible scenarios that could kill him. But then a landslide suddenly happened, pushing him onto the metal barrier and trapping him in the dirt and mud, only for a huge boulder to hurl at him from the mountain to guarantee his death. At that moment, Kuro, number 2, appeared and used her powers to smash the boulder into 2 and save Ryota. He promptly asks what she is. "I'm a witch," she answers, experimented on and juiced by drugs. She got turned into some kind of superhuman with powers. She then shows Ryota the metallic object attached to her neck. But all the kinky man could think of is that she wasn't Kuro since her armpit was showing, and he couldn't find the birthmark anywhere. Kuro then left and told him to forget about her and all that happened that day. The next day, Kuro was absent, and his teacher tasked him with taking the transfer form over to Kuro to fill it up as well as the guide leaflet of the school. He follows the address given since it's close to the observatory and on his way. Multiple military cars pass through and it seems like they captured a witch. Ryota follows the directions of the address and finds an abandoned village that got evacuated fearing floods. As he wandered through the old town ruins, Ryota found Kuro doing the laundry, singing, and dancing. When he gives her the form to fill out, Kuro tells him, "I was there to save the life of the 2 students that were supposed to die," and adds that she has no need to be there any longer since they were both saved successfully. Then the main man hears strange voices sounding like a bum getting tortured coming from the seemingly abandoned house. Ryota attempts to enter, then Kuro uses her powers to stop him and warns him from entering the house. On his way back home, Ryota realizes that he didn't give Kuro the form or the leaflet guide to the school. He then goes back over to the house and sneaks his way in like a douchebag side character rather than going in and letting everyone know like a main character. He hears Kuro talking to someone but can't see that person, however. When Kuro leaves the room, he enters it to find a girl lying completely still on a bed, unable to move to the point he even thought it was a doll. Before the borderline perv touches her, Kuro enters and explains that she was the first to be experimented on, and due to it, she lost the ability to move her body. However, in return, she gained the power of precognition, as she was the one that predicted the death of Ryota, as well as his classmate. Kana then has a vision of one of their witch friends being captured again by the lab and being dragged back there. Kana, then trying to cheer up Kuro a bit, asks her to go back to school and experience life for the both of them to the fullest. On the next day, Kuro is back in class and the students are reading a subject. When it's Kuro's turn to carry on the reading, she gets flustered and has no idea how to read. So Ryota makes an excuse that he is sick and needs the help of Kuro to reach the infirmary, and the 2 of them rush out of class. Not before Kuro grabs her transceiver, however. Outside, Ryo confronts her, claiming that with her educational skills, people are bound to start asking questions sooner or later, and that she should be careful not to draw unwanted attention towards herself. He then asks her if she was going on the beach trip or not. Her answer was a no. She then asks him for his reasons to want her to go so bad, and, as usual, his reason is that Kuro used to love the beach and she looks like her. Their conversation is cut off midway when Kana sees a vision of a woman in red dying in a car crash next to the curry shop in about 15 minutes. The 2 of them rush out of the school to make it on time and save the woman. On their way over to where the accident will happen, they bump into a woman in red on a bicycle. When they arrive, they find a car crashing into a wall, and people gathered all around. The pair then begin to despair and lament over the fact that they didn't make it on time to save the woman due to the woman that interrupted them on the bike. They then overhear 2 guys saying, "Thankfully there were no casualties." It was then that it all clicked in Ryota's mind. After seeing the same woman they bumped into taking pictures of the accident, they realized that them bumping into her in that split second changed everything and saved her life. The mood then shifts, and we find ourselves in the shady facility with the captured witches. They try to interrogate the ladies about the whereabouts of her other friends, but when she gives no answers, they eject the metallic piece in her neck, and all we can hear is her screams of pain and agony while her melting flesh drips from the table. Now, to pick the mood back up again, during the evening, Kana is nagging Kuro for food for Ryota to walk in on the 2 girls with food and cake, which made them very happy. While our boy is about to leave, he notices that Kuro is bleeding heavily from her nose. The next day, she misses class again. When she returned to school though, her body was covered in bandages and rags as if she was in a gang fight or something. So Ryota asked her what happened, and she replies, "It's just a cold." The next day she didn't make it to school, so Ryota decided to go there and check on her as well as Kana. Once he got close enough, he was able to hear Kana's pleas for help, calling Neko without a response. When Ryo enters the room, he finds Neko lying in a puddle of her own blood, collapsed on the ground. She asks him to take her to the kitchen where she takes some medicine in the form of a pill. As explained by her, these pills are what keep them alive. So every 30 hours they have to take one or their body would begin to collapse, and eventually it would disintegrate just like when their pin is ejected. After taking the pill, she rests a bit and decides to sleep in the kitchen to regain her strength. In the meantime, Ryota is cutting firewood outside when a fire erupts inside the house. He tells Neko to turn the fire off while he gets Kana outside of the house. With the fire out, Neko realizes that the remaining 10 pills that they had are all scorched, and the last time Kana took her pill was yesterday. She then begins to develop the symptoms of withdrawal, starting with the nosebleed. Ryota, thanks to his photographic memory, knows exactly where the medicine factory is and decides to go there to get the girls more pills so they won't die. The first step was for them to go over to the observatory and contact their acquaintance, a powerful hacker that helped Kuro get into that school. However, working with her and recruiting her services is quite expensive. Not with money, but with pills. Once they contact her, she says she wants payment up front, something now they can't provide. After realizing the kind of situation they are in, she asks for half of the pills that they get. At that moment, Kana has a vision of Kuro being sliced in half if they go to the factory. Yet there is no other choice but to go, as Kuro would prefer dying rather than staying put and watching Kana die. The one that slices the best girl is a AA ranked witch. Kana explains the ranking system of the witches, with the escapees being all B rank or under, who are going to be disposed of at some point or another. Kuro then explains to Ryota the 3 functions of the buttons on their neck, the bottom left one being the ejector that disintegrates them, the bottom right one disables their powers for a whole day, and the top one they have no idea what it does other than the fact that the scientists there told them that it is a fate worse than death, and they are so afraid to even try it out. Kana then adds that when Kuro uses her powers, she loses that which she holds most dear, her memories. The plan is set in motion and it is revealed that their associate Kazumi also ran out of pills and is on the brink of a collapse. Kuro then gives Ryota a letter and tells him to open it only once they are in. After opening it, he realizes that Kuro is going to sacrifice herself for him to get the pills and make it out on time. Once he makes it back to her, the thick AA witch is already attacking Kuro, tearing off a part of her clothes. At that moment, Ryota sees the birthmark Kuroneko had as a child and realizes that she is indeed his friend from back when they were children. Sadly though, Loverboy had to see his boo get torn into pieces with blood splattering everywhere, sending him to Meltdown City, before manning the F up and realizing there must be another way. Ryota attacks the witch from behind, impaling her with a metal rod, and then tells her to wind back time since it's one of her powers. Before the man manages to finish his next sentence, the girl slices Ryota up as well as killing him, but the damage has already been done to her body, so she has no choice but to rewind time. This time rewind caused everyone but her to lose their memories, so our guy forgot all about the birthmark again. They managed to capture the AA witch since she went overboard and couldn't use her powers anymore, and with her becoming useless to the LA operatives, they killed her in front of Kuro and Ryota. And next to her melted corpse was some kind of alien with multiple eyes and a scary looking mouth that Ryota stepped on and killed. The two of them then search high and low in the factory for pills and take all that they could find, 2 packs. They hurry back to Kana and find her bleeding heavily along with Kazumi after she rescued her by splitting her last pill with her. After taking the pill, Ryota urges them to remain in the club since they can't return to the burnt house as a cover. He then tells Kuro to join the astronomy club so no one suspects them. On their way to the observatory from school, Kuro hands him a fertilized alien in a tube and a transceiver that could be tracked by the lab, so he has to treat it with utmost caution. In the meantime, Kazumi and Kana are talking, dropping bombshells on us, which is the fact that Kana can move freely if she wanted to. Sadly, their talk was cut short when Ryota and Kuro arrive in the observatory. The next day, Kazumi transfers to their class as well. Meanwhile, the lab man is seen interrogating a witch that ran out of pills. She tells them all she knows about the trio in hopes of getting some pills. However, since this is the lab she is talking to, we all know the guy ended up leaving her to die. After it, the lab man gets called to meet a shady council. They question him about his latest actions and wonder if he can still do the job and catch the witches. To which he answers, the next plan is already in motion. We've sent a AA+ witch to infiltrate the school. And let me say, I see why they dub her as a AA+ witch. Ryota then introduces the recruit Takatori Kotori to the other girls, and they all decide to go on a hiking trip to observe the stars with the telescope. He then discusses with Kazumi, confirming his doubts about Kuro losing her memories when using her powers. On their way to the observation location, Kuro explains the story of the Summer Triangle and how it represented 3 gods and a love story between them, the same story Kuroneko used to tell Ryota when they were still children. While Kotori is observing the rings of Saturn, her hair falls and Ryota can see her harness. At this moment, Kana sees a vision of Kuro dead on the ground and Kotori standing above her corpse. She immediately calls Ryota to warn him. When confronting her, she acts as if she had no idea that they were witches, and to prove her innocence, she uses her power on Ryota, and they teleport, switching places together. As if it wasn't a lame enough ability to begin with, it also was revealed that after using it, her harness gets hung up for a complete day. Kuro then decides to trust her as opposed to what everyone else thinks, and they go on normally with their evening stargazing. On their way back, Kana receives another vision, and this time it wasn't about Kuro dying. Instead, this time it was about Ryota dying with a hole punctured through his chest. In a dark alleyway, a witch holding 3 harnesses in her hand is spotted tracking a witch with super hearing. She makes it out of there in one piece before a great explosion erupts in the area. Back at the observatory, Ryota inquires from Kana about exactly what she saw and where they died. It was near a lake and Kotori was standing there smiling in the first vision, and in the second it was still the same lake, but this time Neko survived and Ryota died. The girl with the super hearing, Shino, contacts Kazumi and asks for her help since she is being tracked down by the AA+ witch. Yeah, I guess we were wrong. The AA+ agent wasn't the big booba chick, but the chick hunting the witch down. The girls go out to check on their friend to see Kikuko open her shark-like mouth and fire a laser beam disintegrating a house by the lake. And while the main couple was hiding from her immense powers, Shino got killed by her. Enraged over Shino's death, Neko attempts to fight Kikuko, but Ryota presses her harness hanging up her magic, not wanting Neko to waste her life in vain after witnessing how powerful Kikuko truly is. While attempting to flee, Kotori shows up on the scene, shouting Shino's name looking for her, which draws Kikuko's attention to the 3. Neko then decides to distract Kikuko to let Ryota and Kotori escape while Kazumi hacks in to close off the area temporarily. Ryota then finds Kotori tying herself up to a pole. Her initial plan was to sacrifice herself to save Kuro, but instead he commands her to switch with the shark lady before she blasts Neko. When the switch was made, Ryota pressed her harness and Kikuko was defeated with a paper bag on her head. Before evacuating the area, Kotori goes missing again. The main man uses his monk brain, concluding she is trying to kill herself. They manage to locate her at a cottage she wrote on her club papers as a residence. There they saw the poor soul bleeding from a lack of pills. Kotori then narrates the story of her friend Che, who stopped taking the pills for Kotori's sake so that she would survive and make it to her birthday. Che used the last of her time to enroll Kotori in school as her birthday present to enjoy as much fun as possible. As so, she wants to die for Che. Ryota and Neko, however, have another outlook on the matter. They give her a pill, convincing her to keep living as a member of the astronomy club, and to survive so that she can wish Che a happy birthday, which was a week from then. After resolving all the shenanigans, the club members play and eat outside on a hot day. Then Ryota goes to meet his uncle Kogoro Hashiratani, a scientist whom Ryota believes can reproduce the medicine. He demonstrates Neko's magic to prompt Kogoro, and after 3 demonstrations, he becomes interested and wishes to know all about what Ryota and the girls went through. Detailing everything to Kogoro about the witches, the latter agrees to analyze the medicine's molecular structure and looks for a way to synthesize them. Unfortunately, it may take half to several years. Also, Ryota has him look at the fertilized alien egg. While back at the club, the girls are glad they were able to rely on Ryota, with Kana stating that Ryota likes Neko. On the next day, some classmates invite Neko to a karaoke house, though she gets flustered from singing in public and has no idea what karaoke even is. After the main man explains what karaoke is, she asks Ryota to go with her, which he refuses since he tutors his next door neighbor Kitsuka. The next day, Kotori tells Ryota some rumors about the lab being founded 100 years ago after discovering some alien ruins, and the fact that there exists a powerful S-rank witch called a Valkyrie that could destroy humanity. Talking about the lab, we see Chisato reporting to the higher-ups after interrogating Kikuko. Their top priority is to capture number 1107 and retrieve something known as the Grain. Meanwhile, Ryota takes Kazumi to Akihabara to find equipment for the observatory's computer, and although she acts as if it's a date, Loverboy keeps telling her that this is no date. Yet it sure looks like it at the maid cafe. He later takes out the communication device and turns it on, only for it to display an image of a map and a message in German. Kazumi translates the message: "Kill all the witches now. Only then will we reveal the truth." Aside from that, they figure the device has a password to input, yet they are anxious that the message isn't from allies. So Ryota decides to go alone to the place where the map leads to. 2 individuals wearing black overcoats appear at the spot where the device got activated. Later that night, Kazumi comes to Ryota's house to narrow down the map's topography. Kazumi then starts asking Ryota what he feels about Neko and strips naked to get the stud to sleep with her. but he has zero interest in her A-cups, so they go to sleep instead. On Sunday, Ryota arrives at a church indicated on the map, only to find it in ruins. He asks an old lady nearby about the church, who states that it got unsuspectingly destroyed, yet there was no news coverage for it. Inspecting the church, Ryota finds a German inscription on the walls. Suddenly, a police squad appears and seizes Ryota without questioning. Fortunately, Neko makes it in time to destroy their cars and guns, while Kotori teleports the mad chief of police tied up to a tree somewhere. The girls tell Ryota not to be so hard on himself and that they should combine their strengths. Meanwhile, Kogoro gets a call regarding the alien egg. Back at the club, Kana discusses Kazumi's perversion while the others were away. When they return, Ryota brings intel of the German inscription with words underlined in blood, but is still unwilling to turn the device on at their current location. Meanwhile, the lab receives reports about number 1107 and number 7620, and a high school boy, Ryota, aiding them. Chisato's assistant, Kurofuku, goes to pinpoint their location with the witch Nanami Toko, who makes her appearance with her glorious thighs. Remember boys, thick thighs save lives, and I sure hope she becomes one of the good guys at the end. Nanami demonstrates her ability to scan and modify people's memory, and has Kurofuku buy her sweets for her cooperation. She finds Ryota when crossing with Kitsuka. Then she alters Kurofuku's memory of her existence for the time being so she can enjoy herself in the outside world more, and later manipulates Kitsuka to lure Ryota to her. She scans him and learns of the observatory and the girls. Shocked that Nanami saw through him, Ryota tries to convince Nanami that there is hope for her to live freely. Disbelieving, Nanami erases Ryota's memory and leaves. However, Ryota appears unaffected due to his photographic memory and alerts the girls. They then decide to end the conflict peacefully with Nanami. After staying at a hotel, Nanami tries to socialize with people but doesn't know how, as she was kept locked alone for so long. Ryota, Neko, and Kotori, all wearing sunglasses, find her at a park and try once more to befriend her. Neko takes off her glasses to persuade Nanami, but she alters Neko's memory to attack Ryota and Kotori. When Neko regards Nanami as a friend, she realizes her wrongdoing and undoes her magic. And finally Nanami decides to go with them. Eventually though, Kurofuku regains knowledge of what's going on. Taking Nanami to the observatory where Kogoro is, our boy asks him to find a way to remove the beacon on Nanami's harness. Neko then talks about how important friends are and how painful it is to lose them. Sadly, before Kogoro can do anything, the beacon activates and Nanami melts to death. As she melts, she erases the girls' memories of her so that they would not have to suffer from her death. Except for Ryota and Kogoro, who didn't make eye contact with her. While crying over her melted body, Nanami appears beside Ryo. Turns out she inserted her consciousness within his mind, along with some info about the lab and where it is located. Sometime later, while studying for test finals, the club members think about whether they should continue going to school or not since they only have 3 weeks worth of pills left. So Ryota reminds them how they wanted to live as high school students and motivates them with a trip to the beach. In the evening, listening to Neko singing, he notices that Neko doesn't remember the time she went to karaoke with friends. Fearing she will forget about him, Ryota embraces her. After the finals, the test results are out. Neko first, Ryota second, and Kazumi third. They then head for the beach as promised. Thinking of what they've been through so far has made them happy with their lives. Elsewhere, Chisato takes the initiative to release Valkyrie, the S-rank witch, to locate 1107. He has a team of A-rank witches to monitor her, but when the scene shifts to the white-haired chick, it's revealed that she has already killed them all. A police squad confronts Valkyrie in an attempt to question her. This provokes her to unleash antimatter magic, which incinerates the mountain they were on. As this occurs, one of the witches, Hatsuna, recovers from her wounds thanks to her regeneration ability and sneaks away from the police at the crime scene. Looking at what happened, the girls tell Ryota that Valkyrie is an ultimate hybrid with 8 different types of magic. Knowing that a fight with Valkyrie is out of their league, they think of a strategy to avoid her. Hatsuna, who overheard Valkyrie having detected witches at an observatory, goes searching for them. She finds the club members faking their deaths to protect themselves. Hatsuna is then welcomed into the astronomy club and goes to wash in the hot spring. While there, the girls tell Hatsuna how reliable Ryota is, so she decides to test his trustworthiness herself, pretending to be helplessly stuck on a radio tower. She calls Ryota to get her down and then deliberately slips off for Ryota to grab her, and he refuses to let go despite her regeneration power. Ryota swings her back onto the tower and in the process, he falls. Luckily, Kotori saves him, at which point relieves Hatsuna. Touched by Ryota's actions, Hatsuna bluntly confesses and kisses him in front of the others. This causes Neko to blast down the tower in jealousy. Later, Kogoro calls in Ryota with a theory that the witch's melting condition is based on a digestive enzyme, protease, using a thesis that he learned from a man that was in the same class he was in, Chisato. Uncle Koga tells his nephew it's possible to shorten the time of producing the medicine. However, it will still take a month. On the other side, Valkyrie, whose real name is Mako Fujisaki, is sightseeing when Chisato appears before her and slaps the shit out of her. But surprisingly, she didn't kill him on the spot as she has unrequited feelings for him. Chisato requests Mako to bring him to where number 1107 is. Back to the main man and his harem, Ryota returns with the bittersweet news. Although there is a possibility that one of the witches won't survive. None of them is willing to sacrifice the others for it, so they decide to split a week's worth of pills to celebrate life while they can. And to mark their celebration, they ask the boba to bring some juice, which she accidentally spills on Neko. Exposing her chest, Ryota discovers the birthmark on her breast and that she is Kuro Neko. Crying tears of joy, Ryota reconciles with Neko and declares that he will help fill in her empty memories. They spot a helicopter coming their way, and before they can escape, Mako appears before them, and by God, she looks identical to Neko, but with the white hair, she looks like anti-Neko. Mako and Chisato arrive at the observatory where they demand that they hand over 1107, which turns out to be the lovely Kotori. Who expected that? Ryota distracts them for Hatsuna to run away, but instead she jumps Mako from behind. Alas, she couldn't figure out which button to push on Mako's complex harness to hang her up. Mako retaliates by slicing Hatsuna in half. Then the man orders Mako to kill Neko, but Ryota pushes her away and takes the hit from Mako's magic. In losing consciousness, Nanami appears in astral form to Ryota, divulging that Neko used to be an S-rank witch, stronger than Mako, and that the only way to regain her powers is to press the top button of her harness. However, the method is highly risky, after which Ryota dies. With the girls distressed and defenseless, Mako is about to finish them off. But then the mysterious group of black-clothed individuals arrives and neutralizes Mako's magic, following the device's signal that Ryota turned on earlier. Nonetheless, Chisato escapes using Mako's teleportation, taking Kotori along with them. Hatsuna recuperates herself, and using her ability to heal with Neko and Kazumi performing CPR, they manage to revive Ryota, but Hatsuna melts in the process. Miki and the individuals introduce themselves as a group resisting the lab, stating the witches still have to die because of the details inside of them. The witch's true form will eventually hatch and devour their bodies, giving birth to monsters. Moreover, Kotori has an entity called the Grain that can destroy all humanity. The group tried to capture Kotori once but failed, though it was during the incident that they lost their comrade Akane, which led to the other witches being able to escape. Kotori awakens before Chisato, who calls her Reina. Reina was Chisato's younger sister, who he believed was the only life meaningful to him until she died of an unknown sickness. He tells Kotori how aliens were believed to be the creation of humans on Earth. His efforts to revive Reina's soul within Kotori's body ended in vain. Not giving up despite the revelation, Kazumi hacks into the lab's database to locate Chisato's whereabouts near the lake, and has Hakusenjad take them along. Kotori asks Chisato what he feels for Mako, though he answers that she is merely someone important to his plan. Kotori awaking speeds up, causing light to shoot for the sky. The light covers the earth with Hakusenjad just staying helpless, so Ryota, Neko, and Kazumi go to rescue Kotori on their own. Neko and Kazumi knock Ryota out, not wanting him to risk his life any longer. Chisato remarks that Takachiho aims to use the light thing to reset the earth to a whole new era, though his only intention is to revive Reina. Kotori responds to Chisato how she wants others to smile regardless of her life, so she ejects her harness, therefore canceling the light phenomenon. Mako slices Kazumi in half, but spares Neko as she is her little sister. As Nanami guides Ryota, he finds Kotori's melting body. Listening to her final words, she asks Ryota to tell her big brother not to harm anyone, and that she was happy until the very end. He also overhears Kazumi as she mutters about wishing to have kids with Ryota. Meanwhile, Mako recalls how Chisato saved her once when exposing himself to radiation. Chisato commands to have Neko ejected while Ryota hits him aside, shouting out Kotori/Reina's words at him. Mako uses gravity manipulation on Ryota and Neko. Then Kana quickly intervenes, who is now able to move when having her top button pressed for the cost of her forecast magic. Neko then presses her top button as well. Her full power is now awakened and her memory as Kuro Neko, Ryota's childhood friend, is restored. Neko forms a barrier to counter Mako. Hex and Jag neutralizes Mako's magic and then fires at her with their guns, but Chisato shields her from the bullets. Gotta admit, it was mildly satisfying to see his back filled with said bullets. That said, with Chisato dead, Mako now believes the world is meaningless and attempts to unleash her antimatter magic. Neko kisses Ryota before using a micro black hole on Mako, which swallows her up for good, and Ryota grabs Neko from falling off a collapsing cliff. Neko seems to have overexerted herself and unfortunately loses all her memories again. Kogoro later calls and says that they have miraculously obtained the formula needed to reproduce the pills for the witches. In the credits, they return to school with Kotori's tombstone beside Chei's near the cottage they lived in. Kogoro, Hexenjagd, and the lab continued their research on aliens. The astronomy club begins a fresh start on an astronomical observation, with Kazumi restored thanks to Hatsuna. Ryota lets Neko see the summer triangle in the sky through the telescope, and she recognizes it, hinting there might still be some small traces of her memories.